Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined today once more by one of our regular guests, and that's Simon Nichols, founder and CEO of Thrive. So welcome again, Simon.
I love being a regular guest, but I can't help worry that maybe I'm too regular. But obviously, you'll be the judge of that. But I love being a regular guest.
Superb. Well, you're very welcome, and we love to have you on this pod. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing how to benefit from change and how to deal with the uncertainties that can also come with it. But before we get into that, I'd just like to ask you, if I may, what was the most defining moment of your career so far? I'll let you think about that for a little bit, because I know that it kind of came as a shock to me as well. And I'm actually going to say, from my perspective, it was joining UK&I SUG. I'd been at an organisation in the mobile comms industry for 18 years. I didn't know what SAP was. I hadn't a clue. So it was a new industry. I was the first employee. We were setting up the office at my home. So I was in effect alone at that point. And if I didn't make it work in 2 years, I was gone. And well, here I am almost 20 years later, still loving what I do and who I do it with. And for me, there's nothing better than the UK&I SUG community, everybody in it, and it's an honour to serve that community. So for me, it was joining the user group.
Well, it's also a privilege because, as well as being a regular contributor and the UK&I SUG's mental health support partner, I'm also a member of the UK&I SUG community. I'm very proud to be so. Defining moment, I think, I'm not sure if I've managed to use the word serendipity yet, but I know I was talking about it earlier. I love serendipity, those sliding door moments. So I think my defining career moment, and I've had many peaks as well as troughs within my career, and it's gone from my original working in Waitrose, other supermarkets are available, working in Waitrose as I used to stock up the frozen turkeys, and all the way through to running my own training company. But I'm gonna go to, and I'm not gonna name any names, but Craig, this individual is known very well to both you and I, and I will get to see him. There we go, a little bit more of a, I'll get to see him in December when UK&I SUG Connect comes in. And this individual has been since I started being your support partner, has pretty much attended every single webinar and has been a huge influence in my thoughts and feelings. And I got a message from this individual. I think it was via WhatsApp, and I wrote an email back to this individual, and it was just a very quick email that I sent off, and this individual sent me a picture that he had printed my email and he'd put it in a frame and he'd put it on his wall, and he said every time he feels that something is impacted, he just looks at that email and that makes him feel better. And to me, all of the sales, all of the individuals, all of everybody that I've actually maybe helped or supported or whatever, the knowledge that just what I felt was a very simple support email was actually pivotal enough in someone's life for them to feel that on their darkest moments, they can look at this and take inspiration from it. And I don't think anything else will ever be able to beat that. And I'm looking forward to a big hug from this individual in December.
Oh, that's amazing, and it really gets you in the field. Actually, that's amazing, Simon. Thank you for that. And first of all, talking about change, congratulations on your move into a new home, which we all know can be a very stressful process. How have you found the impact of that change has affected you during the house buying and moving process?
Took a big breath in there because I'm still quite new in the move. We still have things in boxes. We have successfully put all of the stuff that we took from the loft into another loft, so we're halfway on that route. Having since uncovered my ADHD brain, my wired differently, I've started to accept things happen for a reason. And when we think about change, and that's what we're going to be talking about later, I had a real big issue with the packing up, because I've lived in the house in Milton Keynes for 15 years, and that transition, that move to Lincolnshire was huge in our world, mine and my wife's world. Not only were we leaving our children, our 5 children, various locations in the country, they're not all in Milton Keynes, but we were also moving to an area of the country we'd never been to before, and we were moving into a house that we'd only seen 3 times. And I got a very strong level of overwhelm as we were getting towards that last 2 weeks, and the lethargy of trying to put things in, because effectively what you're doing is you're packing up your life, you're moving your very existence, and you're putting them into a load of cardboard boxes, and then you're taking that journey, a journey into the unknown. And we didn't know what would happen. And we arrived on the Friday afternoon into our new house, which is a lovely little cottage with a wonderful garden. And within 2 days, it felt like we'd lived there in our entire life. And it was really interesting because my wife mentioned to me, Kelly, she said, do you know what? I've been filling our house in Milton Keynes over the last 15 years with items that didn't fit, and they now fit. And it's like this jigsaw puzzle of moving. And I am the least stressed I have ever been, probably in the last 30 years, because everything is just slotting into place. It's like we were waiting for this move. So stressful leading up to it. Now we're in that calm area. I'm sure it'll get stressy again. We've got to face a Lincolnshire winter. So, but at the moment, everything is going perfect. Thank you.
Oh, marvellous. That's good to hear. And while we're on that subject, I suppose, making the most of change is something that can bring a positive experience. But is it possible to positively benefit from negative changes in our lives as well as the positive?
I think if you go to the very core of what we're talking about today, which is change and transition, change. And we talk about transition because transition is moving from one state to another. Okay. And change is the agent that allows us to move from one state to the other. Quite a lot of change in our life is negative because it's out of our direct control. And when you and I have spoken about resilience and stress management and that ability to adapt and change as we move through various facets in our life, our whole life is a state of change. We're born, our matter, our state has changed. We're no longer in the womb. We then start to walk. We then start to become a teenager. We then an adult. All of this thing. So we have change forced upon us almost on a daily basis, and quite a lot of that, if we think about maybe relationship breakups, maybe bereavement, eviction, redundancy, a lot of this change is forced upon us, and it's how we react and how we deal with that negative impact and how we spin it. Now, you've probably heard the terminology about, putting a positive spin on something. And I think it's that half glass, half full analogy. And it's that, the best one I saw about this is you're in a bank. You're in a bank and someone walks in and and you get shot in the arm. Okay. Are you unlucky because you got shot in the arm in this bank raid? Or are you lucky you only got shot in the arm? And I think it's that whatever happens in life with a change, there's two ways to look at it. There's probably a multitude of ways of looking at it, but there's realistically, I can take this in a negative or I can take this in a positive. And I think it's at that changing doors scenario, I can go down two different paths. Oh no, I got shot. I'm the unluckiest person in the world. Oh, I got shot, but I only got shot in the arm. It means I get some time off work. It's how you view the situation you're in. So I think, yes, you can take a positive experience away from a negative impact. Absolutely.
I think we've talked about it before, haven't we, on how you internalise, i.e. what you read, what you see, what you feel, and what you experience. How you internalise it has a profound impact on how you feel about that.
It is. And let's take, I've spoke about this on various different webinars. So I've been made redundant 3 times in my life, although mostly they're compromises, but we won't go into that. But I've been exited from organisations, large organisations 3 times. And the first time was quite impactful. And the second time was quite impactful. And the third time was quite impactful. And you'd have thought that I've got used to the redundancy from redundancy 1, large corporate organisation, then redundancy 2, large corporate organisation, redundancy 3, large corporate organisation, all delivered in a similar way, all delivered. So, but why was 3 still as impactful as 2 and 1? For redundancy, even though it's not you, it always will be you because you are you. So your thoughts and feelings related to the reason you're being made redundant, you may be a number on a spreadsheet. You may be unlucky in being in a particular department. But ultimately, your thoughts and feelings go, oh, someone doesn't like me. Now that someone could be AI, could be an Excel spreadsheet, but someone or something doesn't like me. And that's why I'm leaving. And it's how you rationalise that, because what I actually learned from my first redundancy was I then got a much, much better, more amazing, more incredible opportunity and job from the second one. When my second redundancy, I got a much more exciting and amazing job from my third one. For my third redundancy, I thought, I've had enough of this. I'm the only one that's going to sack me now. So I set up my own company. And we're here sort of 4 or 5 years later, and we're thriving, we're flourishing. And I think it's like what you said when you started UK&I SUG, the unknown of that change, because you moved presumably from a role where you were looked after, supported, and now you're here on your own. And I think it's how we adapt to that. So we can all still feel negative. I felt rejection, I felt fear, I felt pain, even after the third one. And you need to be able to look forward to something. You need to have a positive light on the horizon, which says, okay, I'm moved away from there, but now I'm into something else. And I'm now going to embrace that change. And I think that's the difference. If you embrace it or you let it engulf you. If you let it engulf you, then it's going to take a lot longer for you to adapt to it and accept it.
Yeah, it's so true. And just reflecting on that, yeah, even though I was kind of the lone employee when I joined the user group, I had a great board supporting me on that journey as well, and having that support. And
we know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I SUG membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I SUG referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
is the way we deal with change in our personal and perhaps professional lives different?
I think it is. I think we are very bad at bringing our personal life into the workplace. because there's always this sort of barrier of, oh, I can't bring my problems into the workplace. I can't bring who I am into the workplace. And we know that MHFA England and lots of other organisations are trying to, do something about that. It's my whole self, be the genuine me. The more genuine we are in the workplace, the more safe, the more psychologically safe we can feel. So I think we do try to keep the two lives separate. And in some cases, we even have that, it's my switch off time at 5:30, and I'm now going to, I'm now going to go into my personal life, which is the right thing to do. We do need that switch off. We do need that time, but not being genuine in both of those locations, not allowing work to know that stuff's going on in your personal life, and not allowing your personal situation to know that stuff's going on in your work life, I think is the wrong way. It's the wrong way that we should be looking at it. And we have this wonderful thing, that we work-life balance. Why do we never say life-work balance? We always say work-life balance because work is the most important thing. Yes, of course, it pays our wages. Yes, of course, it allows us to do things. But ultimately, and I'm not going to scare you with the amount of minutes that we're alive, or the amount of weeks that we've got, or even looking forward to how many. But our time is our most precious commodity, and we need to be doing the most with our time as we possibly can. So enjoying what you do, and I can't remember, there's a philosopher or sort of said, if you look around and you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it? Okay, and that's not to say you might need the money, etc. That's absolutely fine, but why don't you look for somewhere else to work while you're in a job? Okay, this is not a mass exodus of SAP community leaving, but it's important for you to feel happy. And if you're not feeling happy in the role that you're in, or the job you're in, or the company that you're in, the only one that's going to make that change is you. The only one that's going to be able to. And I love this quote from Matilda: "If you don't like your story, change it." And you're the only change agent that can really do that. And I think it's really important just to remember that if you do have to blur that professional and personal, make it impactful, make it a life-work balance. Okay, your life is the most important. That's where you're going to be. That's where you started, where you ended. The work bit's just a sort of bit in the middle. Create an environment where you thrive at work as well as you thrive at home.
So focusing on that work element now, just taking it, I suppose, upper level to the leadership level. I believe the main focus of any change effort should be about the people. And, whether they're our loved ones or employees, if you like, but managing change positively can be challenging. So how can we ensure that everyone has a positive experience during times of change?
Well, I think it goes back to that whole element that we've been talking around psychological safety, around culture of inclusion, around communication. If everybody is aware of the whys and the hows, then the acceptance of that change will be easier. No one likes change. No one likes that. If you think about the change that was forced upon us, Craig, back in March 2020, where you had to leap off up the motorway from a mental health first aid course, we dealt with that change, and we didn't want to, but we dealt with it because the nature of the pandemic meant that we had to change drastically, and we adapted. And I think that's the key thing for any change agent. Okay, and think of yourself as the biggest change agent. You can choose to go left or right when you exit out of a door. You make the most changes in your life. So when you think about organisations and how they can manage and handle change, early intervention, let people know that change is coming, because there's nothing worse than what I probably did to Chris earlier, which was to ring him up and tell him that I'd forgotten my microphone. I'd forced a change upon him, but we had a solution. I had a solution, and we worked around it, and then Chris was back on an even keel, and he wasn't about to get upset because we had a solution. So when you think about the change element, and let's go straight for the one that gets a lot of people: reduction in force, redundancies. If that's managed in the right way, if that's managed so that there's a huge support network put in place, and you as a business, and by all means, you as an organisation, you will know who your competition is. You will know who your collaborators are. If you have to get rid of 8 people to make the numbers, to make the books look good, what about that manager getting in touch with other organisations to say these individuals are coming onto the market soon, to already engage with HR representatives who are geared to recruitment, to say to when that axe drops, when that news is delivered, hopefully face to face, you've got a solution. Okay, we are having to let you go. I'm really sorry for that. You've made a huge contribution to the business. We couldn't have done it without you. And what we've done is, rather than here's a number to call if you're worried about your redundancy, bye. Actually, I've contacted a few of our competitors, and we've got you a couple of interviews. I know it can't be done on scale. I totally understand that. But if you are a department and you're going through this, well, of course you're probably small enough for that to happen. And like anything, people in the industry. And it's just about, if you've got some bad news, at least have a solution that might work for someone. Because as a veteran, as I've mentioned before, as a veteran of 3 redundancies, the fear of the unknown is the biggest fear. And your anxiety, your thought process will always take you to the lowest common denominator. It will always take you to the point of fear. And that will then reduce your survival rates in terms of, I now need to survive. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to look after my family? How is this going to impact me? And it's always going to impact me negatively. Yet we know from those individuals who've been through redundancy, for the most part, it reacts in a positive outcome. Because, I'm now a zookeeper. I'm now a marine biologist. I'm doing what I wanted to do, and I was only working in that location because I didn't know what else was available for me. So I think we should accept that transition and that change if we can adapt it in a positive way. And if we're finding that difficult, what all good employers should do is have an employee assistance program that deals with individuals who are going through redundancy so they can get that support they need as well.
I think you've touched on a number of elements there, Simon. Communication. You talked about, involving people in that emotional, practical support, and having a plan, and perhaps also we need to be aware of monitoring the plan and adjusting it as we go along, because obviously the initial plan becomes out of date generally as soon as you start enacting it. And anxiety was an element you also touched on there, which I know we've talked about quite a lot, and managing that with the support that you can provide people on that. And I suppose change is going to happen. I think it's what one of the quotes is, the only constant is change. And so how do we build resilience how do we work with people to build and help them build resilience to change?
It's an interesting question because resilience comes in, a lot of different forms. And for the most part, resilience is built up from experience. So were I now to go back into an organisation and be made redundant for my 4th time, I doubt that'll ever happen, but that potential is I have built up resilience to it. Still impacts me, but it impacts me for less. So, the couple of months after my first redundancy was really quite impactful. It took me a couple of weeks after my 3rd redundancy, so I'd reduced that time element because of that resilience. You can also build resilience by putting in coping strategies, by putting in safe spaces, safe places that you can be, whether that's in your mind or physically in a safe space. You can also build up resilience by talking. So you can talk to people who've had similar experience, and you can build up resilience by talking to people who will help you build that resilience up. So we're talking about counselling, maybe some coaches, life coaches, that will give you a different way of thinking about it. And I think you said it perfectly at the beginning there. Change is constant. Change is inevitable. Change is going to happen. Your unwillingness to accept that change is probably the biggest barrier that you need to overcome. You won't always be in that job, potentially, because even at some stage you're going to retire. Your children won't always be in your house. We've found that out. We're moving to Lincolnshire. Our middle child, who is incredibly intelligent, doing his university degree. He didn't want to move to Lincolnshire with us, quite rightly, moving from the middle of Milton Keynes, a metropolitan hub. But the change for him was actually meant that he then went back and moved and lived with his dad and his brother, who had also moved out. And he's now in, the change was upsetting for him, but now he's in a much better place. He's loving the new location. And it's just about that acceptance of change. If you accept it's going to happen, you'll be able to deal with it. And again, I can't tell you, if you do this, Craig, you'll be more resilient. But what I can tell you is that if you do a suite of things, at that point of when change comes, you might be able to deal with it better. And I also can't tell you what those strategies are either, because my strategies will be different to your strategies. So it's how we actually put those strategies into practice. It's okay having them, but we need to use them.
So from that perspective, should organisations perhaps encourage regular change to help employees become more resilient?
It depends on what you mean by regular change. In terms of, should we put our employees through the mill every couple of months to harden them up and make them? I think that's probably the wrong approach. But if we start to roadmap the change. Okay, just like we would in a delivery organisation, we would roadmap the rollout. Let's take SAP HANA. Let's bring it back round to SAP. If we knew exactly what was going to happen and when and that thing, rather than an announcement has just been made. Well, actually, we knew about this announcement for 6 months. Why didn't we put that information out in bite-sized formats rather than this big announcement? And I think it's that delivery of change, as you said. I think that's really important for an organisation, not to just, right, we're now moving to Doncaster. Not anymore, we're moving to Rochdale. No, we're moving to Harrogate. All of that is just going to cause uncertainty and will be impactful. So I don't necessarily think it's that we should do change for change's sake. I think what we need to do is help our workforce build up that resilience to change. And how do we get that workforce to help us to understand how they would deal with that change? Guess what? You ask them, you communicate with them. And you say when change is inevitable, and unfortunately, not every change can be. I can't tell you everything that's going on in the business. Of course, I can't, because the amount of information that would be coming out, and actually the board do need to work on something, because it's exciting, but we need to work out the details before we let you know. But as soon as we worked out the details, even if it's 6 months down the line, let us let you know. And again, how do we let you know in that? Is it a town hall? Is it is it word of mouth? Is it line manager dispersal of information? But it's important to get that. So it's not that we need to go through regular change to harden people up, but I think it's how if we are going through regular change, for instance, how that regular change is communicated and how early we need to communicate that.
Thank you. And, we've touched on a number of things on the positive aspects of change, of course, on how change can really be positive and lead to positive things, and we get better through it as well. And you mentioned that through your experiences. But what are some of the biggest mistakes people perhaps might make when dealing with change?
I think the two that stand out for me is the first one is making it personal, especially from an organisational perspective. As I said at the beginning, we are responsible for our actions. We are responsible for our happiness. We are responsible for whether we turn left and turn right. We're responsible for our mistakes. If change is forced upon us for something out of our control, whether it be bereavement, as I said, relationship breakup, redundancy, change in office move, for the most part, it's not personal. But we make it personal. The only reason that this is happening to me is because I did this. And so I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking it's just them. And then what that causes is that they're alone and no one else can help them and they've got to get through this themselves, which is absolutely not the case. The second mistake is believing that, or having the belief that everything is going to be rubbish. Everything is going to not work now. Because of this change, everything is impacting me in a negative way. It's not going to work. And you've probably seen that as well with software rollouts, and there's always a faction of people, well, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. This is going to be, this is the end of the company as we know it. 6 months later, we haven't failed yet, but it's coming. It's definitely coming. And a year later, they're actually using it. We call them the slow adopters. So what you've got in any organisation is you've got those people that embrace change, the people that don't want to, but they still sort of love the old ways, and then there's the dinosaurs, potentially the ones that won't change, and they're the ones that we need to educate and communicate the most with, to tell them that this change is not detrimental, it's not going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to the company, and in actual fact it will be better for them in the long run. But they're the people that often get ignored and missed because they'll just catch up. We spend a lot of time on the early adopters. We really should be spending a lot of time at the people who have been there potentially the longest and who are going to be most impacted by that change as well.
As we come towards a close, and there's been a lot of great advice given from you already in this discussion, but perhaps to summarise or to add extra pieces of advice, for what would your best piece of advice be for people who might need to deal with change unexpectedly?
I think let's go straight back to communication. Communicate with someone who may have been in your situation, and for that I mean if or an expert in that field. So if your change is bereavement, you're right, what's happened to you won't have happened to anyone else. It's unique. Your bereavement, your loss, your pain is unique to you. Even though I may have, one of my parents might have died, I won't have the same experience. But talking to someone who may have gone through a similar situation with you, and if they are a good friend and a good listener, will really be able to help you. And it's not about, I've got this change happening. Oh yeah, let me tell you how good it was for me when I went through this change. But it's finding the right person to talk to. And if you don't have that person in your network, then actually reaching out to a professional in that space. I think the biggest thing that we do is try and keep it all in. The biggest thing is trying to deal with it on our own. A problem shared is a problem halved. It's never more truer. The weight gets lifted because you've got someone else to speak to. I think if change is impacting you in a way that it's impacting your life, it's impacting your work, it's impacting your thoughts, you need to talk to someone, because even just the mere outpouring will help you compartmentalize it. And maybe, just maybe, someone a little bit further down the line will signpost you to someone who can support you in a different way, or maybe they'll make a solution, as a suggestion of something that will actually take you on a completely different path. But it's just important, talk to someone.
Simon, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and for your valuable insights as always. I do really appreciate you joining us and sharing that with our community. Thank you. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well. And as Jim Rohn says, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change.